Welcome to Antiques Made Easy. I'm Adrian and I've been a dealer for 25 years and I'd like to show you how to research online. Today's mystery objects, a pair of brass candlesticks. We want to know where they were made, when and how much they're worth. So we start as usual by taking a look at the objects, and you can see they're a pair of brass candlesticks. I've measured them and they're 8.5 inches high, and the condition seems to be pretty good. There's no splits, no repairs. They have wear, but that's to be expected. If we take a look at the top, there you can see this section where the candle goes in is called the sconce. Oops. And here's a clearer view. And the sconce is shaped like a flower, which could be a useful search term, floral, flower-shaped, petal-shaped. And we're looking, basically all the time, we're looking for words, or we're trying to call upon knowledge that will give us the words to throw a bit more light on what something is. The shape of the actual stem is called baluster shape, and it comes from silver shapes and from glass making. So there's a sort of crossover between subjects, and this particular little bit is called a knop, and so is that one. They're called knops. There may be a specific name for this style of knop. That also could be petal shaped or floral. And if we go down to the base, you can see again that the base is petal shaped. Another word would be lobed. So that's the base or the foot. So if we take a look underneath, because that always throws a bit more light onto things, you can see years and years of dirt built up. That's one point. You can also see this metal piece here that's got an iron shaft and a brass end, and it's called an ejector rod. That pushes the candle up as it burns down. And if we look there, you can see that the base has been turned on a lathe. It's been finished, scraped out. These are all useful indications, because what we have is basically a pair of petal-based candlesticks, brass candlesticks, that could be dating to the 18th century and possibly as early as 1740. So we need to look at that using these words in an internet search and see if we can narrow down the date of the candlesticks and the country of manufacture. So now we move over to the search engine, and again I'm using DuckDuckGo because of the number of images I find it more useful than Google. And we put in a search for brass candlesticks petal base, and go over to images, and straight away we've got quite a few of them. And this pair in particular, are quite close. So Antiques Atlas, we might not be able to see anything there. Fine pair. Good pair of Georgian brass petal-based candlesticks, George II in design, but made around 1800 to 1820, as the columns are not seamed. Now this is interesting. If we go back to our images, oh, not the blackbird. If we go to our images, and then go back and take a look, you can see this knop I was talking about is very similar, and the knop down there is very similar. The shape of the base, the style, everything is similar. Now they've made an interesting point. They've said George II in design, and that's our 1740s original brass candlesticks, but made around 1800 to 1820, as the columns are not seamed. And if you look, I mean, from photographs it's very difficult to tell unless somebody has specifically photographed the same. But the early candlesticks, the 1740 ones, if we get, say, this pair here, this might be handy. If we take a look at these, they put England 18th century. So let's have a look. Is it? I find these very annoying. You can't see the seam, but the earlier candlesticks were made in two halves and fused together, whereas the ones that are a bit later, they weren't. They don't show the seam mark. So we can have another look. But I think, miraculously, I've hit on a very close match straight away with that pair. I mean, they all describe George II, Queen Anne, so I mean that tells us which country they come from. They're English. Right, let's have a look at this. These are described as 1770. Now, we need to take a look underneath. Here we go, and you can see the turning. You can see that they're turned. So these might fall into the same category again of slightly later, almost like a reissue of a 1740 candlestick. The hollow cast stems are decorated with fine lines. The stems are fitted with a twist-up mechanism, which is not working. They're probably made in Birmingham, 1770. But they probably were. It's not easy to tell from photographs, but And I think that's the same pair that I just saw. Well, the interesting thing to take away is that seams existed in the manufacture up to a certain date, and we can say ours are after that date. They're not seamed, but also the fact that the underside, if we go back and look at our photos, there it is. If we look at the photos, you can see the trimming, the grinding off of the underside, which is another technique that only lasted for a certain time. I've seen circular base brass candlesticks that are trimmed, and the latest for them is in date is probably around 1840. So yeah, you're looking at a Georgian era, but George the Third or Fourth, not George the Second. So I think we've been very lucky and fallen on a very close match. So finally we come to the valuation stage, and we could take this pair as a guide, and I mean, look, they've actually sold, and they had a price of 285, which is probably a good retail price. They may have taken 250 or even 220 for them. Looking for the same style of knop again. We'll see. There's a pair here. Now these are described as Victorian and £125. If you look at the base though, there's no engine turning or lathe turning on the base, so they probably are a later cast pair, just done in the same style. So that's another end of the market almost. It gives you an indication that people would still be asking that kind of price for a Victorian pair, and I really think that our pair is a tad earlier. Let me just carry on looking. There may be something that turns up. This is described as Queen Anne, and it probably is. And the price $950, which may be a bit heavy, but Queen Anne is rarer. It's an earlier period, so we've got 3 valuations there. And it really does depend on which time frame our pieces belong to. So we go back to the images. You can see the turning that I mentioned, and that is typical of the period of 1800 to 1840. So I would agree with one of those listings, or one of those. Well, I would agree with all of them, but one of those listings has got more in common with this pair. So I think we could say we've got a pair of late Georgian petal-based brass candlesticks in the style of George II, circa 1740, but made between 1800 and 1840. And a full retail ticket would be between £200 and £300, and an auction estimate would probably be 100 to 150. And I think that more or less sums them up. And they're in good condition with the ejector rods in place, which is, doesn't always happen. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be making more in the future on other subjects. It's good to cover brass because so far I've done a lot of pottery and porcelain. Please catch up with me on Patreon, and you can support me there to help me make more videos, because they do take time and effort. I've got a Facebook group, Antiques and Collectibles Wanted UK, and I also do a £1 valuation service from a Facebook group called £1 Antiques and Art Valuations, or something like that. I can never remember exactly what it is, but you'll find it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.